BXB. It's in the game.
If you guys follow the website or the YouTube channel, you're very much aware that this is the time of year in which all the sort of annual franchises bring their releases. So it's not a surprise to see me, especially me, talking about the latest iteration of WWE that has just arrived on Xbox One and PS4 for your delectation. And this is obviously WWE 2K19. I recently reviewed Fire Pro Wrestling and found that somewhat lacking. So, as is always my hope with a new WWE game, fingers crossed, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the one that sets it back on track after some pretty lackluster iterations in the last couple of releases on this current generation of hardware. Now, as you're seeing in the video, I'm looking through the different modes here, and there is more on offer in this iteration of WWE than we've had on this previous generation at any point. We've got myriads of modes, from My Player to Tower modes to the Universe mode, and just gads of content and ways of playing the game. You can play matches with up to 8 players now, because that's always a fun thing to watch in wrestling when you have 4-on-4 tags. But I want to talk about, first of all, what is probably the most improved and most blown out mode we've got in WWE 2K19, which is the new My Player mode. Now, this is more in depth and more fully featured than we've ever seen before. So to start with, you're picking a wrestler type and you're going through sort of an easy creation tutorial-esque mode to get your wrestler set up. So your basic looks, your basic attire, your basic movesets, your basic entrance, and all those sort of things. And it's easy to do, and you get straight into the game very, very quickly. The first thing you'll notice with your My Player actually is that instead of just being able to put him through various sort of stilted story-esque bouts which have got a light wrapper, this is a fully voiced, fully cutscenes story mode, which includes loads of dialogue and fun interactions. It's actually really well voice acted for the most part, with wrestlers lending their voices throughout, including Triple H and Daniel Bryan, including Matt Bloom, obviously what we might remember him as Prince Albert from back in the day, and just many, many more. Alexa Bliss, the list goes on and on and on. And obviously performances vary greatly depending on who's better on the mic and who feels more natural recording voiceover for a video game, and some aren't as good as the others, but that's fine. It's here though, and even your wrestler himself is fully voiced, and that's done incredibly well. I really liked my character actually, who I created for this game. He was a strong style, striking focused wrestler. And yeah, his development is this process now, which is much more visual, using a skill tree system rather than just putting numbers into columns like you had in the past. Though those are still represented and you can still look at those sort of numbers, you don't affect them in the same way. Instead, you're picking skills and developing your wrestler. Though I will point out, your wrestler starts at an incredibly low ability level, especially at the speed in which you go from indie to invading NXT and then onto SmackDown and to Raw. You're finding yourself in these fights against opponents who are much, much better than you, and that really shows up some of the gameplay issues that are on display in WWE 2K19. While the story mode is definitely vastly improved and more interactive and definitely more fun and silly than it ever has been before, at its core, the wrestling still has issues. The reversal windows are inconsistent to say the least. So if you want to try and reverse an opponent's strike or grapple, you're never quite sure when to hit that right trigger. And also, what makes it even worse is that the AI are incredibly good at hitting your reversals. The amount of times I had finishers reversed and turned against me was incredible. Now, to sort of counteract that problem, I suppose, they brought in this thing which is, I'd say, a little bit of a fuzzy system called the payback system, which are these two little icons that represent powers that you can use when you've taken a beating and can then swing the momentum back in your favor. It's a bit strange how you activate it. It's a bit confusing as to when to use it and how to even customize them, but it is there, and it is something I think as an acknowledgement perhaps to how good the AI can be in this game. There are plenty of sliders and options for difficulty that you can change, of course, to make the matches easier. And I found myself sometimes doing that because when I got onto SmackDown to face Bobby Roode in a 15-minute Iron Man match, and he reverses 3 of my finishes and pins me 6 times, and I only get 2 pins, this can be incredibly frustrating, even if you're wrestling at the ability of your player, which for me at the time, he's like 52 level, and you know, Bobby Roode's way, way higher. But like I said, this is still a much improved mode. One of the other little criticisms I say is some matches, you know, you have to hit certain objectives to continue through the story, and that can be frustrating if your wrestler isn't necessarily good at certain things, and you can't just win through a pinfall or a submission. You have to do like something like a knockout, or you know, various other stipulations. But in a way, though, it pushes things towards the story and towards the narrative, and in that direction that is trying to tell a real story. But My Player mode isn't the only mode on offer here. Oh no, oh no. Showcase mode is back, and this time it's focusing on Daniel Bryan's career. Now, he might not be a wrestler for everybody. I myself personally find his in-ring antics a little bit dull now, especially since his return, and he's had to play things safe. But back in the day, he certainly had some great runs in WWE and some great, very, very famous clashes. Man, that WrestleMania will always stick in my mind as one of the greatest WrestleMania moments that I've experienced in my lifetime. So that's pretty cool that he is the showcase mode. It's conveyed via the typical kind of combination of matches and really nice slick video packages from WWE. They're always good at that. And then we have some talking head interview with Daniel Bryan in there to give you kind of a connecting tissue for the whole experience. I enjoyed it. It's a nice thing that it's back. It was out last year. It's back this year. Like I said, this is a very fully featured release that we have with WWE 2K19. And on top of Showcase Mode, we've obviously got the returning, always popular, always fully featured Universe Mode, and that's blown out in ways that, you know, even in the past, it was always fully featured, but this time it's completely crazy. You can customize every element of the product. You can make WWE exactly how you want it to be. Creating shows, creating wrestlers, creating arenas, creating storylines, creating feuds, tag teams, champions, you name it, you can shape the ultimate WWE product in the way you want it to be, and that's really cool if you're into that mode. I know some of the fans spend a lot more time in that mode than they do in the My Player stuff, though I personally enjoyed my time in My Player a little bit more just because I found the hokey story really, really silly. And obviously the wrestling in the Universe mode is the same type of wrestling you're getting in every mode. However, it's more focused around a TV presentation, and obviously because you're dealing with much more high-skilled wrestlers, things like counters and reversals and stuff are easier than they will be with your low-level My Player character, especially in the beginning. I had some time to really make some fun matchups and some crazy storylines, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's a great diversion if you want to spend a lot of time in this very kind of long, drawn-out mode. It's infinite, really, isn't it? Especially when you're starting to delve into the created superstars, and maybe you can get your Kenny Omega in from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and say, you know, WWE have bought him and make some dream matches between him and AJ Styles, for example. Or, you know, the options are infinite. I mentioned that, you know, obviously the Creation Suite is fantastic, like it has always been. However, one of the biggest problems is there are 3 forms of virtual currency in WWE 2K19. So you've got the VC, the virtual currency itself, then you have these tokens. Now, there isn't a real-world way of buying anything yet, as in putting microtransactions in the game to buy more VC or to buy the tokens, but every move and every piece of cosmetic customization is locked behind either card packs or direct purchases through VC. Now, card packs are what you buy with the tokens, however you can buy more tokens using VC. It's a bit of a confusing system. The packs obviously give you sort of random draws depending on the type you're selecting, and obviously it's more cost effective to get things that way than to use the VC directly. However, it's not necessarily the best way of finding that particular move you really want for the wrestler that you really want to customize. I don't know why they've done it this way. It's a little bit cumbersome. Honestly, the animation of just opening the card packs themselves is really boring, and I'm just buttoning through it as quickly as possible just to get out the other end. There's another mode, though, I wanted to mention that's been introduced here. We have a tower mode. Now, this is basically, you want to do a little bit of wrestling, you want to get in there, you don't want to maybe spend hours in Universe Mode, you don't want to do the showcase, you don't want to do the My Player, but you don't want to just do one of the myriads of normal matchups that are available to you, and maybe you don't want to delve into My Player. So we have this other option, it's like a medium length option, these towers, these 2K towers, and what it is you pick a wrestler, and it's kind of a story, sort of related, thematic thing, where you will then, maybe with that single wrestler, go through 4, 5, 6 other matches. Now, this can be in stages that you can save, or you might have to do it in a gauntlet way in which you have to stay in the game for the whole period, and you're getting different rewards for this, different amounts of VC and tokens and things like that. So that's another mode that's been introduced in 2K19 here, and it's a nice thing to do. I can't say I spent a huge amount of time doing it, but if you're in the mood for a more sort of specific challenge, yeah, why not? Not bad, I suppose. Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about with this year's iteration. So many new things. So a few extra little points I wanted to point out here, though, as we get to the end of the review. It shocked me that commentary was somehow worse than it's ever been. Not the delivery, not so much the lines that Saxton, Graves, and Cole are giving, but how poorly it's actually matched up with the on-screen action, often interrupting itself, often being late. The game is also even glitchier than last year's, and by that I mean, lots of graphical weirdness, lots of collision detection problems. The amount of times a wrestler would get hung up on the ropes and his legs and his arms would gimp out were a lot, and it happened quite a few times. However, load times are improved, especially in the creation suite and going between modes, so it's a lot less time waiting for the action to happen. I'll point out I predominantly reviewed this on the Xbox One X, but I did also review some of it on the S, and performance seems pretty good and consistent across both those platforms. Now, like I said, this game has still got jank, but they have really thrown the complete kitchen sink at it this year. There's more modes than ever, more wrestlers than ever, more match types than ever, more wrestlers in the ring at once than there's ever been, a fully featured and fully acted My Player Story mode, universe mode bursting at the seams, showcase mode is back, multiplayer is in there. The list goes on and on and on. The creation suite, once you've unlocked the items you want, is absolutely amazing. The face morphing, you can create anybody. This is one of the best creation suites out there. It's absolutely fantastic. But at its core, the wrestling is still lacking. Those reversal windows are poor. Hit detection can be bad. The AI is inconsistent and sometimes way too difficult. And it just spikes in difficulty in such unfair ways. You sometimes really feel like there's a random number generator going on behind the scenes that is just trying to screw you out of wins. But despite that, if you're a WWE fan, there's still going to be a lot in here for you to enjoy. There's so much content, so much going on, and it is an improvement over last year. So because of that, I'm going to give WWE 2K19 3 out of 5 stars.
BXB. It's in the game.